started struggling probably around 2010, so about 6 years, and yeah, it's been a long road.
Can you explain that?
Sure. I know for me, I'm not someone who is looking towards any particular person in the media to kind of like emulate or, I guess, embody some traits. Um, for me, my struggles with the disorder come from just with people I know, and people I've known. That's just my father has anorexia as well. That's kind of where my illness kind of starts. But I also dated a few people, and I feel like I've gotten some of their habits into my own. Just over time, just very slowly transitioning it into my own habits and behaviors. I'd say it makes it a lot harder. There's a lot more anxiety. There's a lot more fear, especially when going out with groups and just trying to be comfortable with the whole just normalcy of eating. But it's it just feels really like I'm always just feels a little bit out of place. There's always something holding me back from really enjoying a meal, and so I don't really go out of my way to go get awesome food or go on food adventures. It's not something that I would normally want to do. So I don't, and so I usually just kind of cower back and usually just have meals on my own. And so I think it hurts me a lot in socially in that way, probably most of all, especially with like relationships too. Um, just I'm always worried about, okay, am I gonna transmit my behaviors and habits onto other people? I kind of feel like I might be poisonous in this way. So that's always something I have thought about. But so it holds me back socially. My dad has been struggling for decades, and he and my mom believe that it's not something that's curable. So to be with them and to get their support has been challenging. They support me and they want me to go get treatment, which I have been doing, but they don't really believe that it's something that can be overcome. So it's not been easy to get their full support. They don't believe it all the way through, so I don't find it helpful to join them. Um, so I hang out with them just once in a while. I mean, I'm on my own. It's fine. I have enough distance where I don't feel like I'm going to be triggered if I'm around my dad. But there's always that little thought in my head. It's like, okay, you want to see me do well, but you don't really think I can, maybe. So there's always that thought that really bothers me. I do think full recovery is possible. I think it's a long journey, and I think it's a tough road, but I do think it's worth it. And I think the alternative is something that's um, not something to be celebrated. I do. Um, I'm not sure what that looks like right now, but I think I've made a lot of progress over the last year. I started treatment in the early 2015 and have been doing well. I've gotten through meal plans, and right now I'm back to intuitive eating and kind of getting back on the road where I can have more freedom and more ability to kind of make my own choices when it comes to food and meal planning. So it's that part I enjoy a lot. Um, so there's some normalcy that's returned back to my life, but um, there's I think there's still a lot of work to be done. There's an anxiety and there's the depression element, and it's also compounded by another autoimmune disorder I have. It's called ulcerative colitis. So it's an irritable bowel disorder, and makes you not want to eat because you have a lot of pain, and it's lasts for sometimes quite some time, a few days. So there's um, that element mixed in. Feels like I'm being tag teamed, but not every day is a disaster. So I just kind of take it one step at a time. I think for me it was. I think there was a lot of surprise in the people I know, especially coworkers who don't know me quite as well. It was like, wow, like you have this. It wasn't vocalized necessarily. I got a lot of support from them, thankfully. But I think there is. Um, and no, I'm trying to decide whether my treatment was any different, really, by the way my therapist and my other team would treat it. Um, I think they had less of an emphasis on the media and more of an emphasis on my everyday relationships with people. Because I feel like that's where the transmission of the eating disorder happened for me. Um, so in that way, I personally think it's contagious in that fashion. So um, I don't know. It's hard for me to decide how different it really is. Just the when I go to support groups, I feel a little bit um, outnumbered. Definitely, there's very usually maybe one or two men in the group, um, but everyone's really understanding. So I feel like I don't think the treatments, in my opinion, is actually all that different. I feel like it's probably pretty similar. Maybe it has to do with my age too, but um, I think these days I think it's a little more agnostic to gender.